I think the swamp in Edmonton is trying to undermine Premier Danielle Smith with this latest expense scandal. I'll explain today. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid, and you're watching The Gun Show.
Breaking news here in Alberta. Premier Danielle Smith is back from her trade mission in Mexico, and she is speaking up on this issue over whether or not government officials need to post their receipts online when they spend taxpayers' money. She was participating in the Alberta Next panel just outside of Edmonton last night, and she was asked about this. Listen to this.
I just want to ask you one quick thing about taxes and transparency. A lot of tax waste in the federal government. I just heard this week that we have removed the transparency on the internet for our Alberta government for over $100. Could you please be responsible to taxpayers or explain why?
I can't because I'm confused by that too. So we're going to be discussing that memo when we go to Cabinet on Tuesday. The issue that Cabinet discussed was that there are a number of my ministers who go to the same hotels when they're frequenting different municipalities, and they just wanted the name of the hotel redacted, just in case people were tracking them down and following. That was what the policy was supposed to be. It turned out to be something quite different. So we're going to see if we can maybe try to track down how that happened and do a reversal on that.
Excellent.
So there you have it, straight from Premier Danielle Smith. She said that she too was confused by this result. And frankly, that move on August 1st was super confusing. For people who don't know, up until August 1st, Alberta has had a very strong transparency rule when it comes to the government spending taxpayers' money using basically the taxpayer credit card. Meaning, if they pull out the taxpayer credit card and they spend more than $100, that receipt is proactively disclosed. It is posted on the internet for everybody to see. So that's really important because details on those receipts matter. It matters to taxpayers if their money is being spent on a Taco Tuesday special or a lobster steak dinner. It matters to taxpayers if their money is being used to rent a Toyota Corolla or a Corvette, okay? So details on receipts matter, and it has been the rule, standard operating procedure since 2012 in Alberta, thanks in part to the work from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation back then. It has been the rule since then that they have to proactively disclose it. And then this strange, quiet change was made on August 1st, just a few weeks ago. August 1st was the Friday before a long weekend. And somebody went into the policy and changed it and deleted the requirement to post receipts. That is not going to fly. And so it's really interesting now that we have Premier Smith back in the province, and she answered this question right away. The good news is this is going to be reversed on Tuesday. We are going to put our stringent transparency law back in place. You know, Alberta is a leader when it comes to things like grassroots democracy. We have got recall legislation at the provincial, municipal, and school board level here in Alberta. Yeah, you can fire all those folks in between elections. That's a really big deal. We have referendums, okay? We have the Taxpayer Protection Act, which prevents a sales tax, which prevents tax hikes. People would need to vote for things like that. And we also have really good government spending transparency laws. We all have to stay vigilant to make sure it stays that way.
That right there is my friend Chris Sims of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation explaining changes to the expense reporting rules in Alberta that happened on a strange date at a strange time and was reported by a strange news outlet. How did that all happen? And how did Chris, I think single-handedly, by and large, fix this mess by raising sweet holy hell. Now, I should point out, she didn't do it alone. She had a lot of help. Her tax fighting army of friends and supporters from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation mobilized. And, you know, in an act that might be unsettling for people in other parts of the country, the United Conservative government in Alberta seems to be responsive to the criticism and may be adjusting course. Now, joining me now in an interview we recorded Monday to explain all of this and what she anticipates may happen and how it all came to be is my friend Chris Sims of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Take a listen. Joining me now is good friend of the show and my personal good friend, Chris Sims of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. She's the Alberta director. And I got to tell you, Chris did something quite incredible last week. She noticed something wrong. She raised sweet holy hell. And then she forced the government to re-examine what was happening. Chris, I'm going to give you the floor because well, you will explain this the way nobody else can, but you saw a change in how the government was reporting expenses of MLAs, and you thought, hey, that ain't right. Made a lot of trouble, and now you have the government blinking on this. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, this is a really weird one here in Alberta. So for Rebel viewers and Gun Show viewers, especially those of us here in Alberta, you probably already know that here in Alberta, we have got one of the strongest transparency laws when it comes to government spending your money. Up until like a second ago, if a government muckety-muck, so a cabinet minister or some high-ranking senior official, blah, 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 takes out the taxpayer credit card, spends more than $100, they then have to post that receipt on the internet for everybody to see. Now, they don't need to tweet it out on their personal account or anything, but they have to take a screenshot or the actual physical receipt, give it to their staff. Their staff sends it through the process, and every month or so, they are proactively disclosed, is the fancy term.
Yeah.
So that means that you, me, all of your listeners, all of your viewers, anybody could go look up to see what that cabinet minister spent on what kind of dinner and what date. That is excellent transparency because it's taxpayers' money. So it isn't just an amount. There's a difference between your cabinet minister renting a Corolla or a Corvette on your dime. People might remember, do you remember a $16 glass of orange juice?
Yep.
Right? If that had simply said breakfast, that would have been no story at all. But because it had that detail in it that sticks in people's minds, and it's super important to have. So up until a second ago, anybody around the world could go find out what Alberta politicians and their staff and bureaucrats were spending their taxpayer dollars on, without having to file a Freedom of Information request, which incurs a fee, and then you need to wait around forever for the documents, okay? Then, rewind 6 a.m. last Monday morning, who has this strange spending issue story? The CBC out of Edmonton.
Can I just stop you right here? Because since when do they care? Since when are they fiscal hawks on the travel expenses of MLAs? They're not. This story was leaked to them to be, and I'm saying this, not you, to be specifically damaging to the government.
So the timeline and who said what when is super important. So thank you, Sheila. I think your viewers and listeners are smarter than the average bear. So let's start digging into it. So I'm like, that's really weird. Why would the Alberta government suddenly change the proactive disclosure laws, meaning they're just deleting the requirement for a receipt? So I wanted to make sure it was true. Okay, considering the source, okay?
Right.
Plus, you should always verify. It's always good practice, no matter where you are in journalism, left, right, middle, whatever, robot. Always go check and make sure that the original sources are correct, because sometimes mistakes do happen. So, trust but verify. Okay, so I went and verified it. Yeah, sure enough, on August 1st, which is the Friday before the August long weekend, they went into the policy and deleted the little sentence that says, you have to provide a receipt. So I'm like, okay, let's find out what the heck's going on here. So I contact all the official channels through the Alberta government, go through their media line. I send them an email at like 8:30 a.m., okay, like before 9 a.m., saying, what the hell are you guys doing? Is this true? Who did this? Why did you guys do this? I need verification here. Nothing. All day. Crickets. Nothing back. I even tried sending a couple text messages. Still nothing, which was super weird. So I'm like, all right, saddle up. So we sent out a news release. I put out a video saying, no, Alberta has got some of the strongest transparency and accountability laws for taxpayers, like in North America.
Yep.
That is not changing. Like, nobody wants this. Fix this crap right now. I didn't say it quite that way, but said it nicely. Still nothing. Finally, Sheila, Monday evening after 7 p.m., I get this emailed response from the media person in Alberta. They gave me 2 reasons for this change, and I just needed to spring them on you because they're almost funny. One was for safety reasons. The other was because they don't have enough room on government computers to keep all this data anymore. Would you buy that?
You know what? I hate government spending, but let's spring for some hard drives.
I saw some on sale at Best Buy. I can bring them up myself next time I'm in Edmonton, just saying. So
I'll crowdfund them. If that's the holdup, we know how to do that.
This was exactly my response. It felt like, back when my kids were little, if I asked them if they'd brush their teeth, and they have not brushed their teeth.
Right. The toothbrush ain't wet, okay?
I did not just fall off the turnip truck. This is not working. And so I replied nicely saying, yeah, that's not going to cut it for our supporters. Like, no, you're going to have to come up with a better reason and or get rid of this right now. Like, right absolutely now. So that timeline is super important. Then we start getting messages from the government about a day or so later, around Tuesday, Wednesday, saying a few things. One, that the premier was away when this happened. 2, that some of her senior staff were away on vacation August 1st when this happened. I actually know that to be a fact because I was trying to contact some of her senior staff about other issues like budget stuff. And they were like out of office, out of cell phone range, etc. And 3, that there were some within the upper levels of the government food chain that were super unhappy about this.
I believe it.
I believe it too. The big one is they were going to review this like really quick. And then we had Premier Danielle Smith, who, by the way, just got back from a huge trade mission to Mexico. I mean, she has been on the road a lot. We had her get back on Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday evening. Quick as a fiddle. She was right out there on one of those Alberta Next panels, apparently getting cussed at, which I didn't know.
The abuse of
really?
from I mean, I watched that online and just the abuse hurled at her. If she were a Liberal MP, there would be a national inquiry into the misogynistic abuse being hurled at her, but she's a conservative, so her politics are wrong, so her skin has to be a little thicker, and it is, to her credit, but a lot of it came from the Lukasik petition types. Like, how dare you even hold these sorts of meetings? The ones that they're attending.
Right, of course.
So anyway, carry on.
It's fine for them. And so thankfully, somebody did stand up and ask her a polite question, which, by the way, I'm just going to say, I wouldn't speak to Rachel Notley that way.
No.
I wouldn't. Like, just, guys, when you're at a panel like that, like, be polite, be as firm as heck, okay? Because they are politicians, you're spending your money. Don't swear, don't get personal, because you sound like a complete jerk, and normal people will tune you out because they don't want to be around you either. So just quick pro tip. So
it doesn't, and it takes away from your point.
It does.
Like, nobody listens to your point because it sounds like it's coming from a crazy person.
Yes.
And I've been known to drop the odd F-bomb in my own time. But one of the first things that Ezra taught me when I became a journalist was it's unnecessary.
It is.
It doesn't help with your point.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
He's so polite, even when he's getting ganged up on with people.
Yes.
Okay, so
Sorry.
somebody did no, it's really pertinent. And so somebody did stand up and say, hi, I'm worried about taxpayer accountability. Could you explain what is going on with your changes to this taxpayer transparency thing with the receipts, no longer posting them? Can you explain this? And the premier answered, to paraphrase, no, I can't, because I was confused by it too. What I meant to happen was this. Say somebody, again, I'm paraphrasing, say a cabinet minister goes to a certain place in Alberta frequently. I'll just pick on Red Deer, for example, and they stay at the same physical hotel a lot. Some people were concerned about people knowing that location. So
Right.
can we white out the name of the hotel where you're spending about the same amount of money anyway? Just
Right.
white out the name of the hotel on that receipt.
Right.
Yes.
And I get that. After seeing what I saw watching the Alberta Next live stream, I'm like, there are some people who probably shouldn't know where your local conservative politician is right now.
Staying. That's
Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
every decent person understands
I
that.
get that.
That's fine. We still get to know how much you spent, okay?
Yeah.
And this doesn't apply when you're going overseas. If you're staying at, the London muckety muck place, if you're going to England, we're going to find out about that.
I want to know about your $6,000 a night hotel room.
You do, which of course the prime minister stayed in, and we had to wrench it out of him using FOI, and they released it when Joe Biden was visiting in town to try to create cover fire. Okay. So that answer coming from the premier was excellent, because she said they're going to, quote, reverse it at the cabinet meeting, which is happening tomorrow, Tuesday. So this whole storm took up about a week. At the end of it, people were asking me, between us girls, I don't think the premier knew about this.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, right. So for two reasons. One, I've been in the game for a long time, 25 years. I have noticed that the situation of when the cat's away, the mice will play definitely happens. So premier has been out of town. And two, the second, less personal reason, because, this just doesn't fit her shtick, right? She's always been about, transparency and stuff. So that's kind of her thing, being a former Wild Rose leader. Second is that this just doesn't work. There's no upside to this. It's only backfire you're going to get from this. It's a dumb communications move.
Right.
So there's zero gain here. So for those two reasons, I don't think that this was something spearheaded by the premier. At the end of the day, though, it doesn't matter. All taxpayers care about is that they're fixing this, and we will always get proactive disclosure from the government. I don't care how they fix it, how they climb out of that tree. Could be a golden ladder, could be them falling on their butts. I don't care. But they need to fix it. They need to reverse it.
Yeah. And I'll give you a third reason why I think this had nothing to do with her, and that was the leak to the CBC at 6:00 in the morning. That was designed specifically to sabotage the premier. And you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to think that way. How did that information get out at 6 a.m. to an unfriendly to the premier news source, except for somebody unfriendly to the premier sending it out the door?
I am a pattern recognizer.
Yes. And I'll tell you a personal anecdote. I told it to you off air, but I'll share it with the viewers. My MLA during the dark days of the NDP years, Jessica Littlewood. God, I wonder what she's doing these days. No, I don't.
You probably don't want to know.
I don't care. It's probably some job in the public sector where she's just continuing to live off the public purse. But she, look, I don't live near the city, but in the grand scheme of rural Canada, I live relatively close to the city. And she, I think she lived in Fort Saskatchewan. So it's a hop, skip, and a jump if you live in the fort to get up the Manning Freeway and down to the legislature. That woman claimed $35,000 in kilometers. $35,000 worth of kilometers. I think the news broke in 2018. And the only reason the taxpayer knew about this was thanks to the transparency in reporting. Otherwise, you would have been like, where did she go? Like, to the moon and back? Do we have business on the moon we don't know about?
Hopefully they're mining for stuff. I don't know.
It's sort of a large riding, but not really.
No.
Like, where you get out to Vegreville and back. I mean, again, add another half an hour into your travel time. There's no possible way she could have run up those kilometers. She is taking advantage of the taxpayer, and it was only found through transparency and reporting. And that's how important it is. It's not just to hold the Conservatives to account, it's to hold everybody to account. It keeps them honest. You know, if you know that someone is going to look at everything that you write down and claim back, you'll think twice before you write it down and claim it back every time.
This is exactly it. So interesting, especially for your viewers who know people who are in the arena, as we say. So this all blew up back in 2012. So we've had this level of exposure, this level of transparency for government spending. We need to see the receipts. Bring the receipts, folks. Since 2012. Back then, Derek Fildebrandt was the Alberta director for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and an MLA by the name of Thomas Lukazik had gone over to Europe and to Israel and somehow racked up like more than $20,000 in cell phone bills.
Right. He did not click the Rogers Roam Like Home.
It just sounds like, a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
Absolute nightmare. And it was over this huge rigmarole. Okay. Back then he was part of the PC government. Okay. He was part of that umbrella. He was an MLA under that party. He's now an independent. And it was this huge explosion. And again, over 20 grand in cell phone. That's crazy pants. So the Taxpayers Federation and other people were saying we need better transparency. And so the CTF fought to have proactive disclosure of receipts. And to see this try to slip through on a Friday before an August long weekend, like it's on like Donkey Kong. We are not letting this happen. So we're waiting now to see what happens on Tuesday's meeting. Sheila, I would love to be a vase on the table.
Oh, yes. Oh, for sure.
I really want to know, like, who did this? Like, I don't have to know, but I'd really like to.
I'm sorry, but I love a good witch hunt. I don't listen to true crime podcasts for an hour every night when I'm out running so that I don't use what I've learned to go on a good witch hunt for a leaker. Come on.
You don't use it to keep running so you outpace the serial killer who's following you?
Do you know that's a side effect? It's so funny because I'll run after dinner and I'm like, I'm digesting the news of the day plus my food, the horrors of the internet. I'm trying to get that out of my mind and digest it. And my best distraction is a serial killer because I feel like I can understand that more.
I do exactly
what's
the same
happening
thing
in the world.
I use true crime. Especially past true crime, because they can't get me anymore because the person who did it was dead or because they're in the United States. So they're actually in jail, which is kind of novel. So I do that too. I just distract myself from some of the craziness during the day because it's all so detailed. Anyway, sorry to get off track, but we could do a really good true crime podcast. I think we just caused a spinoff.
Oh my goodness. I need to talk to somebody about the mushroom case in Australia. And I start taking over the evening staff meetings with the Australian team, with Avi and who helps them here, because I'm like, we got to talk about this. Why do I know more about this than you? And it's the weird laws in Australia. But anyways, I'm getting off track.
Sorry.
One thing, I know that you are busy because you have to go into your very next thing. And we'll talk about that before we let you go. But you you have a movement to get Alberta carbon tax free. Tell us about this.
Yes. And this pains me.
Me
but
too.
For some silly reason, we have got an Alberta industrial carbon tax. Like, yeah, I know. I'm surprised.
And we can't complain about Mark Carney's industrial upstream carbon tax if we have one of our own.
That's how this works. So I need all of like the Rebel team and Sheila's team and all the tax fighters who are listening to send a firm, but I mean it, polite email to the premier. Don't be a jerk, please, because it just gives everybody a bad name.
We know she listens.
Yeah, we do.
We just learned that right now. If people put the pressure on her and do it in the most, cheeky way that you did, because you were like, really driving the change to get them to change back on the expense disclosures. But you did it in a, it doesn't even have to be friendly, just has to be respectful, and they will respond. And I think that's why what you're doing is so great.
Yeah. And I think honestly, giving somebody the benefit of the doubt,
Sure.
it's underrated nowadays. And
Right.
you should do it because it makes everybody feel better. What we care about is the proper result. You don't need to be fire-breathing jerk about everything.
Yeah.
So with the carbon tax, and here, this brings me to another piece of gratitude. We do our gas tax honesty report every single year. This year, I'm writing up the news release to do my press conference in Calgary, which we just did last week. I'm writing up the news release, and for consistency's sake, I use last year's template so that everything is properly in order. Our gas taxes and our gas prices, ergo, are so much lower this summer. It is so much better, Sheila. It was about 20 cents cheaper per liter than it was last year. And that is because the carbon tax, the consumer national carbon tax, is gone. People were right when they said it's reduced to zero, but they actually did remove it. They went in and they removed it from the legislation. It's gone. Now, we know that Mark Carney's cooking up the industrial one and it's going to be bad and all that stuff. But for right now, folks, take the win because it was tax fighters. It was normal listeners right now. Think about this. Sorry. You stood up to the government and you said no carbon tax for so long and so loudly. You made the federal liberals cave on this.
Not just the federal liberals. Mark Carney, Mr. Values, Mr. Carbon Scheme at the UN, Mr. De-banking and de-insuring oil and gas projects.
Thank you.
They made that guy buckle.
He was the UN special envoy on this stuff when he wrote this book. You made him cry uncle. So yes, he is cooking up a big plan, which leads me to my next point. For now, folks, you're awesome. You got the win. That's why you're saving like $20 every time you're filling up your pickup truck.
Yeah.
That's why truckers right now, this blew my mind, Sheila. They're saving like $200.
Oh, I not just I believe it, I know it.
It's so good. So take the win, folks. We have to celebrate our wins when we get them because they're rare, few and far between. So right now, this is the situation. This dude, okay, probably hasn't changed his spots entirely. Okay, I'm just going on a limb here. He's building a new industrial carbon tax, which is going to hit our fuel refineries, our fertilizer plants, our utility companies, okay? Which means it's just going to trickle down and make you pay for it anyway, okay? He's just going to hide it. Here's the problem. Only Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe has declared his province to be a carbon tax-free zone, okay? We need to take a page out of his playbook and make Alberta a carbon tax-free zone. The same way we are a rat-free zone. We made up a poster that was, reminiscent of the old rat posters. We've got to make Alberta a carbon tax-free zone. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, she froze the Alberta industrial carbon tax. That's not good enough. She needs to excise it and throw it in the trash. It needs to be gone. And this is why. Because Alberta has got to be on strong war footing for when Ottawa rolls out its next big carbon tax in an industrial form. So that's my next call. Politely but firmly encourage the Premier to join Scott Moe and declare Alberta to be completely carbon tax free. Now, my hunch, Sheila, and I haven't talked about this with her or anything like that. This is not an inside track thing. My hunch is that she's been told that we need it for our oil and gas companies, blah, blah, blah. They like their carbon credit trading, something, something. We don't care. The oil companies can go deal with it themselves. Not our problem. Not taxpayers' problem.
If I were to believe that, they wouldn't do business in places like, the United States, Algeria, Iraq, Nigeria. I could go on and on. Kazakhstan, Russia. So I don't. That's just a baloney excuse.
It is baloney, and don't buy it. So my hunch is they've been convinced by the oil companies that we need it. We do not. No. So everybody get out there and encourage Premier Smith to obliterate the Alberta industrial carbon tax. Gone, gone, gone. Nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Great. Chris, tell people how they can get involved in the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, because you are a grassroots organization. You don't even take preferential tax status from the federal government. And it's a way of mobilizing people and sending a message to the powers that be.
Thank you. And we are nonpartisan, which shows in what are we just finished doing with the premier. We do things with joy. We do a little bit of prodding and poking. Okay. It's really important here. We need to hold politicians and government to account, because otherwise we're just going to continue paying taxes through the nose. So if they go to our website, taxpayer.com, start with the petitions list, find one that speaks to your heart. Okay. It could be getting rid of all industrial carbon taxes, could be defunding all of the media. Okay. Could be any of those things, anti-censorship, something like that. Sign a petition that speaks. The gun grab. We're fighting the gun grab big time. We even fight things like stopping PST on used items.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. So here in Alberta, we're fine. But in places like British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, they pay PST on, like, it's gross. Everything from thrift shops, which is an attack on the working poor, by the way, all the way up to used vehicles. Like, it's disgusting.
How many times do they need their tax money on these things?
Thank you. They want their pound of flesh over and over again. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet. And we're on the menu. So go to taxpayer.com, sign the petition that speaks to you, and then you're in. You're part of the tax fighter army. The next time something pops up that you need to send an email on or make a phone call or come to a rally or come to a pub night, do something that's a fellowship, we'll let you know. And that's how you get change. This is how we get together and we beat them at their own game and we get change. So thank you so much.
Now, Chris, I know I've got to let you go because you have something important to do next. Tell everybody where they can find you for the rest of the summer.
Oh, wonderful. That's really nice of you. So I'm actually filling in for Candace Malcolm over on the Candace Malcolm Show over on Juno. So, which is, of course, you know, an independent media organization from Rebel, but we always wind up at the same conferences. Yep. And if we go back to our origin story at Sun News Network, it all kind of bloomed from there. So on Mondays, and this week I'm filling in 3 times. Mondays I'm filling in for Candace, and we're bringing in all of your favorite cast of characters, lots of great guests. And in fact, on tomorrow, we're going to be talking about freedom and the ability to maybe walk through the woods, and especially freedom of expression, because there's a brand new kids book coming out teaching kids about freedom of expression. And on Wednesday, we're going to do inspired by you, our own gun show. And it's about guns.
Yay! Tracy or Rod?
It is going to be Tracy. And I'm actually chasing a police association to see if they'll come on with us to talk about who the actual baddies are when it comes to guns. Spoiler alert, it's not the law-abiding gun owners. So trying to get them on record.
I just think it's comical because you're chasing your own guests. And at CBC, they have 15 people to do that per one host.
Yeah, I just DM them.
Me too. That's how I got you.
Thanks.
Chris, thanks so much for coming on the show. I know I've got to let you go, but I could talk to you all day. I appreciate your time and just your advocacy on behalf of the taxpayer. We're really lucky to have somebody like you fighting for us.
Likewise. Thanks, Sheila.
All right. We always dedicate the last segment of the show to our viewers at home, because without you, there's no Rebel News. We won't take a penny from any level of government to do the work that we do to hold them to account. How could we? Our work would be politically contaminated with carny cash. I don't want that. I'm not going to sell out my integrity or my independence to prop up an unsustainable business model. So thank you to all of you who help Rebel News live on now for 10 plus years. It's crazy. It's, people have predicted our death many times, and many of those people were repeatedly laid off. I shouldn't be laughing, but laid off in the mainstream media over and over and over again. Did they learn anything? Probably not. Your viewer feedback in multiple different ways. You can write it right on the Rebel News website. You can leave it in the Rumble comments. You can leave it in the YouTube comments, or you can speak to me directly. I give you my email address right now. It's sheila@rebelnews.com. Put gun show letters in the subject line so I know why you're emailing me, because boy, do I ever get a lot of emails. Like so many. And it becomes difficult to sort them all. So if you could help me by putting that in the subject line, it helps me get to you. Now, today's viewer feedback comes from a regular Rebel News supporter, regular writer to the mailbag, and just someone whose feedback I appreciate very much. He's got a very unique perspective, and that is Bruce. Many of you may know Bruce. Bruce Atchison from beautiful downtown Radway, Alberta. And he writes to me, and I wanted to take Bruce's comments because I have an update to something he says here. And he's writing to me on last week's show that I hosted with my friend and Rebel News Tuesday, Wednesday, plus election coverage, live stream co-host Lise Merle in Regina, Saskatchewan. Now, one of Lisa's focuses, as far as journalism, but also in the world, is the intersection, to use the language of the left, of transgenderism versus parents' rights versus the safety and security of children. And we were talking about the recent court decision in Regina, in Saskatchewan, to allow the federally funded activists' challenge of the Parents' Bill of Rights to go forward, which is insane because the law is protected by the notwithstanding clause, which shrouds it from any challenge. It says, notwithstanding the Constitution, the law remains operational. Which means it is constitutional because that is in the Constitution. But it protects the law from legal challenges and overturning. And so if you don't like it, you vote out the government that did it, but you can't overturn the law. And yet the busybody activists want the law ruled unconstitutional but operational as an end run around consequences for teachers who don't follow the law, which says that you just can't transition kids behind parents' backs. So if the law is unconstitutional but operational, can you really hold a teacher to account for doing something that they would be morally objectionable to? You know what I mean? So they can say, oh, I didn't tell little Johnny's mom or dad that Johnny became Jane because, I mean, you can't ask me to do something unconstitutional, and you can't punish me for doing something unconstitutional. You see, this is their way of getting around the consequences of following the law in Saskatchewan and involving parents as first and best educators in their children's lives. It's revolting, but this is what we get with our activist courts. And Bruce writes in to say, hi, Sheila, I'm giving my reply to the show here because Rebel News now charges for comments. We had a problem with the website, should be fixed, Bruce. So you should be able to get in there. And email me directly if you're still having a problem, and I'll get somebody higher up in the food chain than me to help you with those things. So we had a little problem, should be fixed, you should be good to go. But I always like seeing your emails in my inbox anyway. Leftists want to pervert children and turn them from their parents. The Soviet Union and Nazi Germany did this through youth clubs and indoctrination in schools. Yeah, now it's what do they call it? I call them just sexual clubs at school. What do they call it? The gay straight alliances. Like, why are kids talking about sexuality with an unrelated adult in the room? I'm always like, this is a recipe for disaster and grooming. But apparently I'm crazy to think that, according to the left. But you are right. Now the reprobate left are using sexualization as a wedge between parents and children. It won't be long until kids will inform on their parents and get awards for doing so. Yeah, snitch culture. This is why every parent must be told what's going on and rise up against it. Thanks for raising the alarm with Lise Merle. Sincerely, Bruce and Radway. And I hope Delta, your cat, is doing okay. Well, everybody, that's the show for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see everybody back here in the same time, in the same place next week. And as always, don't let the government tell you that you've had too much to think.